we're now into the month of June. What's new for 2026 has already been rolled out for Kings Island. And it's this time of the year where guests start to look toward next year. So what's coming to Kings Island in 2027? Hello, everyone. Alongside Ryan Suhr, I'm Don Helbig, and this is Tower Topics.
Tower Topics drops 3 times a week, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So hit the subscribe button on YouTube or follow us on your favorite podcast apps.
So, Ryan, if you walk around Kings Island, obviously there's no signs of construction or anything, which you would normally see if there were some big, massive type of a roller coaster or something, coming for next year. But, what are you hearing for 2027?
I have heard absolutely nothing for 2027. In fact, I would go as far as saying that Phantom Thief, we've always talked about this. Like Siren's Curse was new at Cedar Point last year, but it's also the new ride this year. Like you need to ride that log flume more than 1 year when you're spending a lot of money. I think that they will center their marketing efforts around Opening Nightmare, and you'll see other park improvements next year. If I was a betting man, that's what I would say. What about you?
If I were a betting man, number one, I would say if you're expecting something in the Vortex spot, grab a Snickers bar because it's going to be a while before you see that filled. We've been talking about that since Tower Topics debuted in 2023, that it was going to be a while. So there's still no indication that anything's on the board for that area of the park. What I think is going to happen in 2027, I agree that they're going to ride the wave of Phantom Theater Opening Nightmare for a second year, but I think there's going to be a focus on something that has been a hot button for you and I on Tower Topics. I think we're going to see enhancements in the entertainment area. I think that we're going to see some of the theaters being used for what they were intended to be. And what I mean by that is my prediction is that we will see more of like a Broadway-style type show in Kings Island Theater. I think we'll see the return of the singers and dancers in the Showplace Theater. I think we'll see some more roving entertainment. Would not be surprised to see the return of the clown band. So I think those are the things that we're going to see for 2027, the little touches. And I could also see, a new restaurant, coming to the park. Nothing that would be, newly built, but just replacing something that's already in place, with something that is, new to the park in terms of what's being served there.
Do you think they'll add any more bars?
They might make it available more places with alcohol, but no, I really think that we'll see something that, they're trying different things around the park. Like Grain and Girl, I thought was the right direction, to go a couple years ago. But I think we'll see some improvements at different areas. Maybe the Fest House, they do something in there to kind of, maybe remodel that to make it more, like Harmony Hall at Carowinds, a little bit easier in terms of, getting guests in, getting them out, through the line and stuff. So I think I could see something in the Fest House being a little bit refurbished there in terms of food and beverage. Definitely, I think the focus will be on bringing back more entertainment to the park.
Yeah, I can accept that. And before we further litigate this, I want to go ahead and just ask if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and drop a comment and let us know, do you think anything is coming for 2027? And if so, what do you think it'll be?
Yeah, and if they're doing the entertainment, that the comment can't be nothing, because that is something, because that does appeal to a lot of guests, when you're talking about entertainment. So do you think it's just going to be a quiet year and they're just going to roll with, Phantom Theater Opening Nightmare? Or do you think there'll be new entertainment, upgrading it? Not just, they always have entertainment. They always have, they change the names of the shows or something. But I do think it'll be, kind of a step in the right direction. And we'll see, something in the Kings Island Theater that is more, Broadway style, something that, fits what that building was designed to do. And I think they'd have to do a couple things in there to kind of, upgrade a little bit to accommodate that kind of a show again. With all the different things they've done over the years, things got stripped down. They'd have to build it back up a little bit to make it ready for that. But I do think it's time. The bicycle stunt shows and stuff are fun. But I think that's kind of run its course a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's time to kind of go back to the shows and the show place that have like the live band and singers, dancers, and the bandstand. Go back to doing something different there. The last 3 or 4 years, it's pretty much the same type of a show that's been rolled out at night. The soundtrack's not much difference, this year for it than what it had been in previous years. So my money would be on a focus on entertainment and just kind of a refurbishment of at least one food location.
Yeah, well, it seems like they do something at a food location almost every year. But when we're talking about a major renovation, let's say they renovate one, new menu, new name, new identity, I could see that. Like I'd buy that. Now, as far as the entertainment's concerned, I think my fear would be you kind of sold me on like the big Broadway-style thing in the Kings Island Theater. My fear would be that they would do better at the bandstand and the showplace and the fest house and stuff, and maybe run longer. But the Kings Island Theater would get Brad Ross, but he's all summer this time.
That can work. You do need a longer run. So I'm thinking just not having as many stretches where the theaters are dark.
Yeah, but that's definitely something I really wish that people would be more vocal about that, if it matters to people, of course. And I think it does, where it's kind of like, especially like, Brad Ross closes right around 4th of July. So the hottest part of the summer, there's no big indoor air conditioned venue, so that kind of stinks. But I really wish that, there would be people putting their thumb on the scale as far as, it's unacceptable to have these live shows that only run for a few weeks, because it does kind of short people, especially if the expectation had been set for such a long time that, not even necessarily like Memorial Day to Labor Day, but at least the crux of the summer,
Right.
You used to have that. And even when they had contractors, like when they had the Cirque people, that was all summer essentially.
Yeah.
So
like I said, I don't think that, if you're expecting a new ride next year, I think you are setting yourself up for disappointment. You would see signs of that if that were to happen. I've had, some people tell me they thought that maybe there would be a flat ride or two coming from Six Flags America.
we know where they're going.
Would get moved down here. I don't think so. I do think the park does need, still another, 2 flat rides, 3 flat rides, kind of beef up that part of it. But I don't think that's going to happen, next year. But I do think that, I think the focus will be on entertainment, food and beverage, and then 2028, I think there'll be a new ride that year. But I still don't think it's going to be the Vortex spot.
What's when you say Vortex spot, that's because you're assuming that whatever goes there is going to be something major, right? Like, is that what you're kind of getting at with that?
Yeah, I think that would be something that would be kind of a new, like your new signature attraction. Something, really major. We're not talking about, whatever goes in there, because the longer the Vortex is gone, the more it's going to get compared, to that, and the better it has to be. So I don't think they're there yet to where the cost to do something like that they're in a place to do that. So I think that's still going to be a couple years, down the line, a little bit further, maybe 2030, 2031, maybe. But I think we could see more rides maybe in the kids area. I think we could see another flat ride, or maybe it's time to revisit Soak City again and put something in there.
Well, Soak City and the kids area have been pretty recent additions, and if we've learned anything, they really kind of worked their way around the park. So I think you're right. I think the Vortex thing would I don't know if I necessarily agree that the more time has passed, the more it gets compared to the Vortex. Because I feel like if they tore down the Vortex in 2019 and then in 2021 they put in a family ride or something, I think that would be more like, you mean they tore out the Vortex for this? When they put in a new ride, it's clearly not going to be the replacement of the Vortex.
No, it shouldn't. First of all, that word should be retired, the Vortex replacement, because it's not replacing the Vortex. It's going to be gone 10 years by the time they get, or more, before they get to that. A replacement is something that you had ready to go when something leaves, something else steps in. So that didn't happen there. So this is just a totally new whatever, just using the space that was once occupied by that. So it's not, you can't really say it's a Vortex replacement by this point in time.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I could also see a world where the next major project at Kings Island is that front gate coaster that we've always kind of like talked about, where they remove in Vertigo Congo, maybe Timberwolf, they put something very visual in the front of the park, and then it's like, oh, wait a minute, we still have this plot back here. Then it might be 2040 by the time it gets filled.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that's, something to think about. I don't know that they would have put in the money that they continue to do into Vertigo, if that's something that they're looking to move on from in the next year or two.
I'm not saying the next year or two. I'm saying like the next major installment at the park. The next $25-30 million installment.
I think that you would, I think, that would be the right place to do it, because there's one area of the park that, definitely needs a reboot, its Action Zone.
Yeah.
So you could really do a lot of cool things. You would have a new major ride as your anchor, with it, but you would put some other things around that.
Mm-hmm.
And you would definitely have a lot of room to roam. If you did move on from Vertigo, Congo Falls, Timberwolf, so you would have a lot of room to roam there.
That's still, I mean, and this is totally going off on a tangent, but that's, dating back to the old adage of Kings Island's addition through subtraction. You tear out 2 rides as well as a music venue, which was under leveraged, but nonetheless it was there. You tear out 3 things in the park to put in 1. I think that
Timberwolf would be one of those things, though. I do think once, if the decision was made to remove it and they removed it, as soon as they did that, they would wish they hadn't have.
Oh yeah, because the industry, I can see it now. Like, when we talk about like trends in the industry, there was the 2000s when it was bigger, better, and it was Kings Island versus Cedar Point fighting it out for, the tallest little person, that sort of situation. But and then 5 years ago, well, like right before 2020 and a little bit after 2020, we went more experience stuff. And that's when they did the 150th at Cedar Point, Kings Island's 50 fun fireworks and 50, and parades and stuff like that. Just reading your articles with Theme Parks by Dawn, it's like, oh, Wild Adventures is bringing in the Doobie Brothers and stuff. I think that concerts might be something that is kind of going to become popular again. And Kings Island will either tear out the Timberwolf and then they'll still do it, but they'll do it in the parking lot. And they'll be like, remember when we had a venue for this? Or it'll be one of those things where they stooge it off and they do concerts, but there's nobody in charge actually doing it, and they don't get acts. They're not promoted properly. Yeah. The same thing that happened in 22,
Yeah. You mentioned Wild Adventures. It seems like every, 7 to 10 days or something, they got a new act that's coming there, that I'm writing about. So yeah, I mean, it's something that, the industry, elsewhere, people are bringing in the concerts. It works at other places. Should work here.
Yeah. Did it not work at all of the Paramount parks? Because they tore down the venue at a lot of the other legacy Paramount parks. Was that just because I know Kings Island's kind of like, now granted, there was a lot of competition when they stopped using it, like in the early 2000s. There's way more now. But was it just a business decision to stop using it at King's Dominion and Canada's Wonderland and so on?
Yeah, just the budget cuts that you see. That was just part of that. We've talked on our podcast about, if you were to get back into the concert business, you would need to have some dedicated people to that. And if you wanted to have concerts in 2027, you need to be booking them now in
Right.
June. You can't wait until March and decide you want to do it and expect to have, some of the acts in that you would like to be available. That's what happened in 2022. By the time the decision was made that this is going to be part of the 50th anniversary, there wasn't a lot of time, to go out and secure these different acts. So you needed to be on top of that, another, 12, 15, 18 months out. And there was anybody, there managing that function like that. So I think you'd have to have somebody dedicated to do it. But for 2027, so we're about, not too much further down the road before 2027 season passes go on sale. So if there is going to be something new, we'll find out somewhere between mid-August, Labor Day, around that range with what's coming for Kings Island in 2027.
Do you think that if entertainment is the new thing for 2027, that they'll be smart enough to like advertise that? Because it seems like if they did it properly, if they said, hey, it's going to be all about entertainment. I think the phrase you guys used when in 2008 was entertainment everywhere. They could like throw back to that. So do you think that they'll be smart enough when they put season passes on sale to market that like a new thing? Like, we're going to have this great new show in the Kings Island Theater and this and that and roving entertainment. Buy your 2027 season pass. Or do you think it's going to be 2027 season passes are on sale, their VIP sales back, and then we'll announce, oh, I don't know, early April that we're doing this stuff with entertainment?
Well, there's not been a real focus by the park in promoting the entertainment the past
Right.
couple of years. You go up to a couple days before the show's open and the showtime star aren't even on the app.
Right.
So you'd have to definitely be a little bit more, willing to talk about that. You need someone that knows how to craft things together to let guests know why this matters, why we're going that direction, why you need to buy a pass, buy tickets to come see this show. You'd have to have the personnel in place that knows how to do that. I thought they did a nice job at King's Dominion when they announced the entertainment was coming back. I thought they had a good rollout with that. Described what was coming, got people excited about it. So I think that same formula could work here. Where they would announce what's coming. So yeah, I would hope that they would have that ready to go by the time passes go on sale. And I do think that they would find that there are people who haven't had a season pass in 5, 6, 7 years would buy a pass if there was a commitment to entertainment.
Yeah, my concern would be they would make the decision around now that, okay, entertainment's going to be the focus next year. They put season passes on sale around Labor Day, and they will have absolutely no idea what that means for 2027.
No, I think the passes. Well, last year they went on sale the end of July.
Well, okay, but let's say when they go on sale, they will not know what a focus on entertainment means at Kings Island. They won't know the shows. They won't know the budget. They won't know the focus. They won't know, what direction they're going to go with it. So I think that would be the problem. I think that they would have to, I honestly think that they would have an idea of it, at least the people higher up the chain than are at the park. But I also think that there's also the mentality of we better not announce this because we're going to cut a lot of it before it ever happens too. So I think that there's going to be, I think that the problem is going to be they're going to have a push for season passes. They're not going to give you like a reason. It's going to be like, buy a 2027 season pass and you can ride Phantom Theater opening nightmare all you want. Well, I wrote it in 2026 all I wanted, So I don't think that'll work well with renewals.
Or the hurry before the price goes up.
And then back down and then up again, like a roller coaster. But I think that it'll end up being a press release of, oh, we're doing this entertainment thing. And
you can get people excited about anything if you know how to tell the story.
Yeah.
And know how to tap into the emotions of the Kings Island guests. So you can get them excited about just about anything, really. Special events. You bring up 2008 a lot. It wasn't a new ride, but it was a year of special events, and people got
There's always something to look forward to. There's
Yeah,
always
people got
something else on
excited
the
about that.
horizon.
Right, and that was another thing. Maybe it's a big special event year next year. That would be another way to go, is to kind of go back to your roots, because that's what Kings Island was known for years, with special events. So maybe that's a big piece of it. Uh, but you have to get people excited about it, and you need to. There's a certain way to do that, like the Food and Wine Festival. Very little, has been talked about with that. You can get people excited about that, but you just got to put the effort into it, and know how to, um, make it, present it in a way that you have to come this weekend to check this
Mhm.
out, or you're missing out. You have to create that fear of missing out. And a lot of times that doesn't happen, whether it's the events now that they do, or it's the live entertainment. It just, there's just a miss there. I think they
Yeah.
are doing a good job though this year of, things like promoting the sweet spot and some of the other food and beverage opportunities around the park. So hopefully they would take what they're doing, I think, successfully now there, and kind of roll that out into the entertainment spectrum.
Do you think that if it's successful that they'll have Alfredo sauce on pasta at other parks next year? No, I'm sorry. I had to throw that dig in.
Yeah, yeah. Well, no,
Um,
I mean that's still one of those things, that you got to have some fun sometimes with some things.
it's like I said, the Alfredo pasta is fantastic. Definitely try it. It's at Grain and Grill. It's just funny how it came out. So let me ask you this. I'm trying to go through my head. You mentioned like maybe events next year. I like that idea.
Mhm.
My problem would be, first of all, they wouldn't promote it until April,
Uh,
but
yeah.
let's say they did. Let's say they went with like what I think we both agree is a good idea, where buy your 2027 season pass, it's going to be year of events. The problem they're going to have is, oh yeah, food and wine, great. Yeah, let's get right on that. But I think what they should do is they should have one early season, maybe Memorial Day weekend, think like Knievel, like big event. And they could be like, our first announcement is this: Robbie Knievel is going to jump 21 Coke Zero trucks, blah, blah, blah. I think they should make that, and we'll be like, look for more announcements throughout the off season. That way they get in the news, you got your 4th of July. Like, let's say you were doing 2008 again. You could announce Knievel along with season pass sales. You could announce Belinda sometime like right before Christmas, for the 4th of July. And then you announce, the other stuff in the off season, keeping it in front of people. I think that'd be a great way to do it as events.
Mhm.
You're keeping Kings Island in front of people. You're giving people reasons to buy a pass, and people
Yeah, I do
reasons to
like
visit.
your idea of, if you're going to make it special events heavy,
Mhm.
breaking that up, and not announcing them all together, and starting out with this, and then a couple months later coming up with that, and then this, and then that, and then people start to look forward to everything, and
Yeah.
they get excited, and then by the time you open in April, they've already got their calendar marked when they're going to Kings Island.
Yeah, and the reason why I said that, I feel like I'm meeting the park in the middle, because again, if they decide they're going to do special events, they have no idea what those special events are when season passes go on sale for 2027. Like, let's be honest here in today's
Yeah,
world. So just
I
having
think they'll get
one,
better at that when things get back to the park level,
I agree. I fully
and
agree.
that is coming. There will be more individuals in the marketing and dedicated to Kings Island, because they need that at Kings Island. It's hard to do it from Charlotte.
Yeah. I mean, it's bad. I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent about this, but group salespeople covering Kings Island and Cedar Point, and it's a mess. Tony Clark covering both parts. Just the fact that the the girl that covers like 58 parks for social media happens to live in this market is very beneficial to Kings Island, because we're getting decent content from the social media because this is where she works out of. So that's something that every park needs.
Yeah,
But
but
yeah.
I do want to say that in the past, since the park opened, 2 months, that
Mhm.
I've really enjoyed the content they put out there. Starting with the series about Phantom Theater opening Nightmare, then they've had the different food segments. They did something about the different special drink Starbucks. They did the sweet spot. The chef Perez, talked about the new food items this year. So I think they're really doing a good job with that. The only thing I would say though is you want to take what they're doing there because not everybody's on Facebook,
Mhm.
and put some of that on, do some more storytelling on your website, through your blog. You can find it's like I said, everything's combined now, the Six Flags blog and stuff.
That
You just
needs to
got to
change
find the
too. I think that
yeah,
will. I think the reason they do that is because people, I'm not saying we're guilty of this, but we're guilty of it. But they're looking at like, oh, you haven't done a blog in 11 months now. And I think that's why like they don't have people to do that at every park. So that combine them all together. So if you look at it, it's like, oh, somebody did one 6 days ago.
yeah.
Because there's
You
no
need to be
value.
doing it at least once a week. Put something
Yeah.
out there. But if you did like the story they did on the Sweet Spot,
Hmm.
and they had the pastry chef, if you did a blog and told that story and then embedded the video into the blog and stuff, you're going to reach a lot of people. And then you take the blog, and instead of just posting the video, native to Facebook, you link it back to your website where people will watch the story, and then while they're on your website, hey, they can check the operating calendar, they can buy tickets, they can buy season passes. So I think that it's a missed opportunity in terms of getting people to your website where they can make those purchases and plan visits, and that, like I said, the content's great, putting it out there on Facebook and stuff. But
It's definitely turned for the better. Now we had some fun with
oh
like
yeah,
them uploading clearly the wrong video that had like missed the B-roll and stuff, and like we had some fun with that. But the truth is, like the video was good, and we were
I
talking
think the
about it, and that's
videos
all
they've
that
done since
matters.
April, yeah, the videos that they've done, the storytelling that they've done, with these videos the last, couple of months, I think it's, the best that the park has done in terms of the video.
In a couple
So
years.
I think longer than that. I think I would go back to, you know, since they launched their own YouTube channel and launched their own social media channels, 2007, 2008, 2009 range. I think
Hmm.
it's better than it's ever been in terms of what they're doing with the videos
Yeah.
on their, that they're putting out there on social media.
All right. So once again, if you've got any idea what you think is coming for 2027, or if you like any of our ideas, we'd love to hear from you in the comments.
Yeah, and
Don,
remember, Don is on board. Don is Team Entertainment. What are you voting for?
I'm
What's your vote
team
for 2020?
RMC in the Vortex plot.
Okay.
Okay. No, I am team restaurant upgrade, and then there'll be some like aesthetic things in the park, but the new attraction I think will be Phantom Theater Opening Nightmare.
Okay.
I think that's what's going to go. Let's move on to the comment of the day. So this is another person from the Green Sheets episode. We had so many comments on this. I had to pull. That's why we saw a couple episodes in a row that included these. For the love of pulling, said, my daughter has functional neurological disorder. Up until a few weeks ago, she was able to manage, even though it was hard on her. She wanted to get the green sheet last year, but I didn't want to be accused of abusing the system. A few weeks ago, she started having issues with weakness in her legs, and we had no choice but to get the green sheets and had to use a wheelchair while in the park. Since we started getting the green sheets, seeing others that have it still makes me question the validity of others with it. We did go and get IBCCES cards. That system is a step in the right direction, but I still think it's easy to manipulate. I don't think there's a perfect solution for this. Just like anything, if there's a perceived benefit, there will be people trying to take advantage of the situation.
That's the unfortunate thing. No matter what you do, there's always going to be somebody trying to take advantage of the situation. Appreciate the comment.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that was an episode, Ryan, that I think a lot of people had thoughts on it, shared their comments. We definitely appreciate that. Um, so for all of those that took time out to comment, anytime that you feel your voice needs to be heard, definitely let us know on the comments and that, because we can work those into a lot of our episodes now as we introduce this new segment here.
Yeah. And one thing that I do want to point out, and I mentioned this in the episode itself, is the if there is abuse of the system, and again, I think that people who use it legitimately and people that are on the outside looking in seem to be have a consensus that there probably is some sort of meaningful amount of abuse.
Hmm.
I don't think that the people who have to wait a little bit longer in line should be the ones that are the most angry. I think it's people like this lady or gentleman here
Hmm. Yes,
that felt
exactly.
like they couldn't use it because they thought that people were going to think they were abusing it. And
That's
you can
yeah,
make a
exactly,
referendum.
Ryan.
You can make a referendum on society about that, but I think the truth is that it's pretty well known that you can abuse it. So, you know, people that need it kind of feel dirty for using it. It's kind of like the people like, let's say like welfare is such a dirty word to people in the upper middle class. And if somebody gets divorced and they haven't worked in 10 years, they're raising their kids and all of a sudden they need some sort of government assistance. It's like, it's an insult to say like, you need to go on welfare, where it's like, no, there are appropriate cases for these people. So, yeah, I appreciate you sharing the story with us. I'm glad that you decided to do it. I think the fact that you got the card, if anything, is proof. I agree that the IBCCES card can be manipulated, but I also think that is a like that's a if you're like going to fake an injury or fake a disorder and you're willing to sit in front of a doctor and lie about it, like you kind of deserve the green sheet at that point because you've gotten something mentally wrong with you at that point. But I
Right.
think I really wanted to have this voice heard because it really kind of disgusts me. It's like, well, my daughter has a neurological disorder. We didn't want people to think we were abusing the system, so we didn't use it. So I take that as a referendum on the the people that do abuse the system. But I'm glad you're using it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And thanks again for the comment. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Don, let's take this opportunity to thank our Prestige members. I want to give a big shout out to Miss Mandy, 1983, Lil Mac, 21, Brian Hauser, 330T, Aaron Bort, Jacob Fix, Damon Barnes, Dakota Cole, Eric Grau, Gibson Hills, Connor Wheeler, Dustin Jackson, Songstress Miku, Medic 302, Eastern Coaster guys and girls, Justin Y, Mike Garrett, Galaxy B-Boy, Greg E. Rocks, Kayla La, T. Cleveland, Tim Dwelly, Sun Fun, Sarah, and Ian Ross. Thank you guys so much for supporting Tower Topics at the highest level. That's the prestige level. If you want to be involved in Tower Topics, there's a link in the description. Members get early access to the videos, exclusive content, exclusive live streams, and some tiers you can get some free stuff. Well, a free t-shirt, to be clear. I'll give you stickers if you run into me at the park, though. So hit that link in the description if you're interested. It starts at just $2.99 a month, $2.99 that is, and it's the best way to support Tower Topics. Don, I was thinking it would be cool if we had some sort of like membership level where we plug people's like YouTube channels that are like trying to grow their YouTube business. Like, I don't know. I'm
Oh,
just
yeah.
spitfiring here.
I mean, if there's a way for us to help you grow your channel, we'd be all about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this was an interesting discussion. I'm Ryan. That's Don. This is Tower Topics.